Now we are going to talk about pneumatic actuators. We are looking closely at the operations and applications of the most common pneumatic actuators, the spring, diaphragm, linear pneumatic actuators. First of all, let's look at actuators in general. What is an actuator? Simply stated, an actuator is a device that makes something move or operate. Actuators make life easier for us every day, and they are the workhorse of the industries. For example, your dentist uses an actuators to move the chair up and down. There are three typical types of actuators used in industry. As defined by their energy sources, the typical actuators in the industry included electric, hydraulic, and pneumatic. Let's move on the focus of our video, pneumatic actuators. And pneumatic actuators converts energy in the form of compressed air into movement. Pneumatic actuators are categorized by their type of motion. They are either linear or rotary. A linear pneumatic actuators can move something in a straight line. For example, a rod is moved in and out of a cylinder in a linear motion by a pneumatic energy source. A rotary pneumatic actuators can make something move in a circular motion. For example, a rod in a rack and pinion drive system is used to produce rotary motion. Let's look at some example of how rotary and linear pneumatic actuators are operated. As there are many different types of, in the rotary pneumatic actuators category, the vane style and the rack and pinion style are very common. Vane actuators have a cylindrical chamber in which a movable vane is mounted on a shaft. Pneumatic air under pressure applied on one side of the vane causes it to rotate through its stroke. Rack and pinion actuators use a piston attached to rack gear. When pneumatic pressure is applied, the pistons and rack move linearly, rotating the pinion gear and drive shaft. In the linear pneumatic actuators category, the spring, diaphragm style and the piston style are very common. The piston style pneumatic actuator utilize a piston inside the cylinder. The movement of the pistons is caused by applying pneumatic pressure, thereby moving the pistons upward. Removing the pneumatic pressures causes the pistons to move downward due to the pressures of the string. This motion is referred to as the air to retract, and air to extend motions can be also be achieved by rearranging the spring, pistons and pneumatic supply. The spring, diaphragm, pneumatic actuators is probably the most common actuator used to operate industrial process control valves. So let's have a closer look. The spring, diaphragm, pneumatic actuator consists of the diaphragm to stem that are connected to the actuator stem. A flexible diaphragm is enclosed in the pressure's tight housing. Pneumatic pressures enters this housing applying pressures to the diaphragm. As the air pressure increases to the diaphragm, the air pressures on the diaphragm creates a force that overcomes the force of the spring and opens the valve. By rearranging the spring pneumatic supply, this type of actuators can felt open or felt close when air pressure is lost. Let's look at a typical spring diaphragm pneumatic actuators connected to a flow control valve in action. A typical pneumatic actuators will stroke a complete 0 to 100% over a pneumatic pressure's input range of 3 to 15 psi. The PLC analog output card produces a 40 to 20 mA current to move the valve from fully open to fully closed. A signal conditioner is called a current to pressure transducer, or I to P will changes the 4 to 20 mA into 3 to 15 psi. Let's review what we have discussed. An actuator is a device that makes something move or operate. An actuator receives a source of energy and uses it to move something. The three typical actuators energy sources are pneumatic, electric and hydraulic. A pneumatic actuator converts energy in the form of compressed air into motion. A pneumatic actuators can move something in a linear motion or a rotary motion. Linear pneumatic actuators include the spring diaphragm style and the piston style. Rotary pneumatic actuators include the rotary vane style and the rack and pinion style.